Illini football is about to get its best recruiting class in decades, and the word on the street is it might be getting even better.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank y'all so much for making us your first listen each and every day, and for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports network in the entire world. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. My name is Zvonimir, your host here at Locked On, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day. Everything you see in here is going to be absolutely free. If you'd like to support the channel, all I ask for in return is, if you don't mind, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It's a busy day if you are in the world, and it's your obligation to cover Illini athletics because, of course, in the college football world, we're going to be having the day one of the signing period starting on Wednesday. So for the record, this is being recorded on Tuesday afternoon, and I was originally going to release an episode Wednesday morning, but I put my ear to the ground. I verified with some independent sources, and I figured I'd release an episode a little bit earlier, talking about what this recruiting class is going to look like. Then, of course, I can recap it for you guys on Wednesday night or Thursday morning whenever I get a chance, because it's an exciting time to be in the lineup, and I'll tell you exactly why. Right now, I believe the composite Illinois is maybe 22 or 23, and I'm talking about the best recruiting class in the country. You're talking about a top 25 class that Illinois is going to be bringing in this offseason, but there's chances, and there's rumors, legitimate rumors, that number could be going even higher. There's a chance Illinois might end up with a top 20 recruiting class in the country. Who are we talking about? Okay, first and foremost, let's start with Micah Smith from Vero Beach in Florida. He's an offensive lineman. I think he's 6'5", 325 pounds, a big boy. One of the better recruits in the country. In fact, he is ranked as a 4-star on Rivals, ranked number 274 in the country, and the 39th best player in Florida. Again, an offensive lineman, which we know that this Illinois class, this Illinois team in general kind of needs desperately, as we're replacing everyone on that offensive line. Micah is a kid who was committed to UCLA, but quite honestly, ever since that, they decided to make a head coaching change. It's just been a matter of time before that he was going to make it official where he was going to play next year. Now, the vibes have been trending towards Illinois for a while now. I let the Talk Illini Discord know about a week ago that I thought that there was a very good chance that Micah would ultimately commit to Champaign. Now, I'm a little more worried just because UCLA finally did hire a head coach, and for all this time, it would be an easier decision for Micah to not go to UCLA if he didn't know who he was going to play for, when he knows he can come to Illinois and have a head coach who has probably the best job security in the country in Brett Bielema. So maybe my confidence has wavered a little bit, but that does not mean I'm not confident. I do think that once the signatures start rolling in on Wednesday morning, that Micah Smith is going to be definitely one of the headliners of the class of 2026, and certainly the biggest name that when you talk about flips, Micah Smith. So remember that name, an offensive lineman out of Florida, currently a UCLA commit. Another name that Illini fans might be kind of familiar with is running back Javari Barnett out of Tampa, Florida. Now, I know what you're thinking, especially you guys, my everydayers. I must be duped. Javari is a kid that committed to the Illini last April. And then a couple months later, whispers came about that he was going to go visit Alabama. Sure enough, he visited Alabama, and they said that, hey, if he's going to make that visit to Alabama, surely he's going to flip. And that's exactly what happened. He flipped. Could I be talking about that exact Javari Barnett? That's absolutely the case. It turns out that Illinois has continued to stay in touch with Javari, and now it looks like, at least the whispers, it was premium information before, but it's gotten around on the social media, and I was able to at least reach out to one person who kind of confirmed it for me, that Illinois is right in the thick of things with Javari. And at this point, if he decides to commit to the Illini, on Wednesday, it's not a surprise. Javari, if you recall, is a great all-around back. I'm not going to go through a scouting report because I figure I'm going to do that for all the individual commits that we have as the signatures start rolling in on Wednesday. But if you want to know what kind of player he is, just do a search for Locked On and Javari Barnett. The day he committed, I was so incredibly excited. Then the day he flipped, I was so incredibly disappointed. And I talked about how, when you go after guys that the big dogs want, well, then sometimes, and more often than not, the big dogs are going to win. But, if ultimately Javari is able to flip to the Illini, that just shows that Illinois is getting to the point where they can win some of these recruiting battles. And so that's another one that all of you definitely need to keep your eye out on. When it comes to Micah and Javari, I feel pretty confident in prospects of them becoming Illini on Wednesday. The next two, not so much, but it can happen. The first one being Micah Matalu out of California. He visited Illinois in December. Again, another kid who is going to be playing in the offensive line. Interior, 6'4", 341 pounds. Again, the number one ranked JUCO. Illinois looked good for him in December, but since then he's gone on to visit Utah and he's gone on to visit BYU. And the fact that I think I learned that he's Mormon himself kind of tells me that usually if BYU wants you, you're going to go to BYU. Now, maybe their coaching chaos that's going on with whether their head coach is sticking around or not might have some sort of effect for that. But quite honestly, a month ago, I would have said that Illinois would probably have been the leader. Today, not so much. And I actually don't expect him to be an Illini on Wednesday. But who knows? We could be surprised. Two defensive linemen to keep an eye out on is one's Jalen Anderson, who visited actually just this past weekend. He is a Florida State commit. I went ahead and reached out to my Florida State source, and he still feels pretty good about Jalen coming to Tallahassee next year. But he also said that the fact that Jalen is visiting, who knows? I guess it ultimately depends on the job that Brett Bielema and that coaching staff do when it comes to swaying him and saying, hey, maybe you could be the next Gabe Yakis. Now, Jalen Anderson is a 4-star. He's 6'3", 235 pounds out of Louisiana. And the fact that I say Louisiana, well, they just had a coaching change themselves. So who knows? Just having said that, LSU usually has that state on lockdown. So that's just naturally another spot that you may have to consider he might end up going to. So I would still probably say Florida State's the leader. Illinois is on flip watch. It could happen for Jalen Anderson, but I think ultimately if Lane Kiffin and LSU decide that they want Jalen Anderson, then number 1 and 2 does not matter, and that he's going to probably end up being a. The other lineman is Lance Dawson out of Ohio, who's currently committed to the Cincinnati Bearcats. He also visited Illinois not too far back. Illinois made a push, but I think Lance probably ultimately still ends up with Cincinnati. Lance is also a 4-star defensive lineman, 6'5", 250 pounds, a guy who has put together some really good tape. I know the Illini staff wants him, but I think his loyalty might ultimately still lie with Cincinnati. So I would be surprised if Illinois ends up with Lance Dawson. But at this point, again, with the aggressive nature of this coaching staff, let me be honest with you. The Talk Illini Discord, I already disclosed this to them. On Tuesday morning, I had a phone call with one of the prominent donors of the program. And I talked to him once a month or so, maybe once every month and a half. I've never heard him this excited. Because, of course, not only is signing day tomorrow, he told me that he's very optimistic because Brett and the team have all the resources that they need. Everybody understands how big of an offseason this is for Brett Bielema and this coaching staff and how pivotal it is for the future of Illinois football. Brett has built a fantastic team over his first 5 years, but now it's time to recycle that team. It's now time to reload. Luke Altmaier is not going to be here anymore. What's this next version of Illinois football going to look like? Well, Brett is going to have every single opportunity to reload the team in his image with the players that he wants. Sure, again, I'm just repeating myself. We're not going to have the finances of the top teams in the country, but finances won't be the reason that this team can't be good. And he mentioned that Brett Bielema and this coaching staff, they're not being outworked by anybody in the conference. And you can see it, like, especially if a guy like Barnett does end up flipping back over to Illinois, they understand the importance of relationships. And I'll say this one more time before we talk a little basketball. This is why, folks after that Wisconsin game were like, I almost would rather lose the last game against Northwestern, finish the season at 7-5. And I was very emphatic. I'm like, there's no way. You want to win every football game that you possibly can because you want to continue to keep the recruiting momentum. This team now has won 18 games in 2 years, which is the most they've ever done. Not only does it make it a flashy looking graphic that you can share on social media, but recruits see that. Recruits want to go play at places that, sure, number one, at this point, it's probably they can be well compensated at. But secondly, they want to be developed so that maybe they can make it to the next level. And let's be honest, Illinois is producing players to the NFL draft almost every single year. And also, they want to win football games. And right now, Illinois football is continuing to win football games. And so that's why, especially in this sport, there's no draft, right? It's not like the professional leagues where the worse you finish, the higher draft pick you get. No. When it comes to college football, when it comes to college basketball, you simply want to win as many games as possible. And not only was the effort there on the football field this past season, but it looks like that the coaching staff is just as aggressive with their effort off the football field. Like I said, on Wednesday, maybe Thursday morning, I'll do a full recap of this recruiting class. It's the early signing days. Of course, you might have some guys who pop in before it officially closes. But at this point, Wednesday is now the most important day in the recruiting cycle when it comes to football. So make sure you're subscribed right here on Locked On Illini for any last-minute updates. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads, money lines adjust instantly. Player props, updates as guys heat up, and you can bet the next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked in every snap, every drive, every possibility. I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I'm also not saying I'm not going to do it, but the Bears are 6.5-point underdogs against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday. We play them twice in the next couple weeks. If you think Green Bay is a touchdown better than the Chicago Bears, go for it. If you don't, I suggest you go check out FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. And welcome back to Locked On Illini. Welcome back to the show. Today we've got meaningful and honestly pretty surprising update out of Champaign regarding two major rotation players on the Illini basketball team. And of course, I'm talking about Andrej Stojakovic and Zvonimir Ivisic. Brad Underwood went on his radio show on Monday evening, and for the first time, he laid out what was really going on behind the scenes leading into that UConn game last Friday. And if you were watching that Friday game and wondering, hey, just something feels really off, well, it turns out that wasn't just your imagination. So let's break it all down. We'll start with Andrej because this is one of the ones that most Illini fans were certainly very puzzled about. In the 3 games leading into the UConn game, Andrej was on an absolute heater, averaging 23.3 points per game, taking over late game situations, attacking the rim, hitting tough shots, and really showing why Illinois went so aggressively towards him in the portal. And then Friday night, he did not look like himself. He played 25 minutes, but he finished with just 3 points, shot 1 for 7, and quite honestly, just did not look like the same dynamic scorer we saw all November long. And now we know why. According to Brad, Andrej rolled his ankle early in the week and well before the team traveled to New York, and he didn't practice at all until right before the game started. Let me repeat that. No practice, like zero. And then he tried to go out there and compete against one of the best teams in the country. Brad said it plainly. You play like you practice. And when you haven't practiced, you're not going to look sharp. You're not going to have rhythm. And you're certainly not going to look like the Andres that we saw against Texas Tech or Colgate. The fact that Andres still tried to play tells you how competitive of a kid he is, how much he wanted to be out there. But it also explains why the timing was off, why the decision-making wasn't as crisp, and why Illinois struggled to generate offense in stretches where normally that's why you give Andrej the ball. What's encouraging, though, is that it wasn't performance-based. This seemingly was health-based. When the ankle calms down, and assuming he practices fully this week, hopefully we get to see Andrej back into the form that we've gotten used to. And then there was another bombshell talking about Zvonimir Ivisic. Apparently he got hurt too, and it wasn't just a minor tweak. He suffered what Brad Underwood described as a freak foot injury when his foot got jammed inside a bleacher at practice. What? Talk about an Illini injury. One of those weird, unlucky plays that has nothing to do with conditioning or workload. Just wrong place, wrong time. But because of that, Zebeth missed both practices in New York heading into that UConn game. And still, the guy came out and he gave Illinois 5 blocks, 4 rebounds, and he did play 17 important minutes. But think about how difficult that's got to be for a 7-footer trying to get his conditioning back, still adjusting to the physicality of the Big Ten, still learning the defensive system. He goes out and he protects the rim like that without really practicing all week long. Now, clearly, he didn't have it. He was 1 for 7 from the floor. But again, it kind of more so makes sense, or maybe not makes sense, but it's a little more justifiable in hindsight. Big men rely on rhythm, footwork, reps, all things you don't get to do when you're just trying to heal and recover. If anything, the flashes that he showed defensively are a good sign that once he gets his legs back under him, he's going to be a major factor. Ultimately, when you pull back and look at the full picture, the story of the game makes a lot more sense. Illinois went into Madison Square Garden with 2 players, rotational players, very important players, who didn't practice. One dealing with an ankle injury, one dealing with a foot, to play major minutes against one of the best teams in the country. And quite honestly, that is not the recipe for having an offensive flow. Underwood literally said it. You practice poorly, you play poorly. When you don't practice at all, that's going to show up. And it did. The Illini still defended. They still competed. They held UConn to 74, which against that roster is not a bad defensive number at all. But offensively, without Andrej being able to create and without Z spacing the floor or screening effectively, Illinois simply did not have its usual variety. This wasn't a figure them out loss. This was clearly they weren't even close to 100% loss. And for some of us, that might matter. Now, the attention turns to Tennessee this weekend in Nashville. Another top-tier opponent, another physical matchup, and another quad 1 opportunity. The good news is that both Andrej and Big Z have a full week to heal and get back to practicing. Brad didn't indicate that these were long-term injury issues. They sound more like annoying, poorly timed injuries and than something structural or something serious. This Tennessee game is going to be a huge test, especially physically. Tennessee is an old team. They're a strong, defensive-minded team, and they are willing to grind games down. Illinois needs both of these guys at full speed so that they can counteract that. A healthy Andrej gives you a 3-level scorer who forces mismatches. A healthy Z gives you rim protection and lineup flexibility Illinois didn't have even last season. If both are ready, Illinois, I still believe, can go up against anybody in the country. But this is why context matters. When fans watched the UConn game, the reaction was, wow, Illinois looks awful offensively. They look so out of sync. Well, now we know. That's because arguably your most important offensive player and 2 key players, well, they literally had not practiced. So the panic button? No, I'm not touching the panic button. This is a long season. I think ultimately these guys are going to be fine. And honestly, Illinois played one of the best teams in the country, closer than most teams would have, even if they had a fully healthy roster. Saturday versus Tennessee, I think, is going to tell us a lot more. As I mentioned, over the next couple of days, you're going to hear a lot about, flips and transfers. And, we're going to try to show excitement when we have players who choose to come to Champaign and become Illini. But unfortunately, there's also going to be stories and players who decide that maybe their time in Champaign is over and that they're going to be transferring out. We just got our first name right before the recording started. Trey Petty, former 3-star recruit out of Starkville, Mississippi, a quarterback, announced that he was going to be entering the transfer portal. And quite honestly, I can't say I'm too surprised. I was very excited that Trey decided to come to Champaign and, commit to the Illini a couple of years ago. But from the sounds of it, he was, as much as he was improving, he's been beaten out. It's Carson Boyd, Ethan Hampton were getting the prominent minutes that Luke Altmaier wasn't getting as a starter. And it looks like, the fact that we have, 2 or 3 freshmen, and then we have Camden coming in a year, that Trey Petty decided that maybe now is his best opportunity to go out and see if there's a better opportunity for him. And I can't say I fault him. And just like Trey and just like any other names we might hear in the coming days, I wish nothing but the best for these football players. Of course, I always wish that it's going to work out in Illinois, wearing an Illinois jersey. But ultimately, these are sons. These are individuals who are all in charge of their own futures. And, they've got to be selfish in some sort of aspects. And I don't mean that in a mean way. You have to look out for yourself. And, whether it's Trey or whether it's the next guy, whoever it might be, I just hope and wish all of them success. To me, once you're an Illini, you're always an Illini. Also, I wanted to give some love to the volleyball program because we had a couple of different players pick up Big Ten postseason honors. And, quite honestly, they earned them. Illinois landed 2 players on the All Big Ten second team, redshirt sophomore outside hitter Taylor DeBoer and junior setter Kenna Phelan. Freshman outside hitter Alyssa Aguayo was named to the all-freshman team, and senior middle blocker Carrie Bohm was recognized as an Illini sportsmanship honoree. DeBoer was a breakout star in her first full year in the rotation. 6'4", outside hitter, piled up 368 kills, hit double figures in 16 Big Ten matches, finished 8th in the conference in kills per set. Just, a massive step forward. Running the offense was Phelan, the Florida State transfer who took over a 5-1 system for the first time in her college career. She delivered 1,032 assists and 10 double-doubles. Twice went over the 50-assist mark. Just someone who stabilized things, and certainly for the program. And then there's Aguayo, a day one starter as a freshman who kept the job all year. She finished second on the team in kills, third in digs, and opened her career with 6 straight double-digit kill matches, something we haven't seen from an Illini freshman since 2016. Of course, the season didn't quite end the way everyone hoped. Illinois dropped 11 of its final 12 Big Ten matches, failing to 13-16 and missing the NCAA tournament altogether. But these individual performances show that real young talent to build on the program is there. And hopefully they can build it back to national relevance. And that's going to just about wrap it up for today's edition of Locked On. I'm going to be releasing this as Tuesday evening, so that's why you're going to have 2 new shows on your feed. And that's what you're going to get here on Locked On. When there's a lot of content to discuss, I'll be here discussing it because I know you guys are out there wanting it. There's a lot of passionate Illini fans out there. And so whenever there's certain stories that you want to talk about or you want me to discuss, send me an email, talkillini@gmail.com. I will say, it's going to be a very hectic next 24 hours or so. So if you really want up-to-date updates, basically, please join the Talk Illini Discord that I have. The link should be in the description. That's where I'm just constantly talking and giving updates as I hear them. I talked about my donor phone call this morning at the Talk Illini Discord. So again, it's a way for you to be around 300 plus. I think it's like over 325 other Illini fans. So thank you for making Locked On Illini your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Big Ten. Craig Shimon breaks down the most exciting conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you again for joining me today. I'll have more basketball and football content for you all week long. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.